Welcome to the Yankee and Canuck podcast, Star Wars special.
And today we're going to be talking about Revenge of the Sith, 2005 film. So, after suffering through Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, at this point it's just like, wow, how much worse can this really get? Fortunately, it did get a little bit better. You know, I think at this point Lucas got all the criticism in. He was beaten down. He was no longer like hot George Lucas. I could do no wrong George Lucas. Now he's just like, oh, everyone hates me. Oh, I can do a really cool film, guys. Come on. So he went ahead and pulled all his effort and he put everything into this film. And honestly, it shows. I mean, you know, it is a pretty relatively entertaining movie, I think.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, I've seen this a few times. The other day, most recent, and before that, I don't know how many years it's been. Many years. And this is probably the film of the prequels that I could handle rewatching, you know, much better than the previous two. This might even be the film that I watch again one day, years from now. Maybe. We'll see.
On your deathbed. This will be the last one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not planning to watch the prequels again. I've seen them several times, and I think I'm good. But you never know down the road.
Yeah.
But I've seen the first two enough, that's for sure. But look, I mean, I think overall, movie's not bad at all. I mean, I think it's. I think firstly, the movie's a fairly good conclusion of the prequel trilogy. First, and in my opinion, and it's pretty appropriate, fitting. It's a very fitting conclusion. Secondly, I think it's the best film of the prequel trilogy, which I'm pretty sure that's the consensus, and you know, most people.
Well, a lot of people
agree with that.
Yeah, a lot of people would. Yeah, I mean, just like it was just one of those things where after everyone was beaten down from the last two films at that point, so to see something that was actually half decent, people were like relieved, like, okay, this could have gone a lot worse. Thank God. You know?
Exactly. I think it succeeds in what it hoped to achieve, I think. And but still has several flaws, many of which are the ones we've seen before, you know, and we expect,
of course,
again, whether it's bad dialogue and the acting and too much CG, and albeit some of the CG that's present is better, but still too much, pacing issues, whatever. So I have specific complaints for some specific scenes, which we'll be getting into. So
yeah,
but, you know, overall, not a bad movie.
If anything, though, like I think the first 30 minutes of it are pretty jam-packed with action.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of similar to Attack of the Clones, where it just got right into the action seemingly right away. This one it just opens with action, with, you know, with Anakin and Obi-Wan and their little ships and those little saw droids and stuff like that. And, you know, I was just like, all right. I remember seeing this in theaters and be like, all right, finally, you're getting something going. And it goes all the way to, you know, the antics with R2 and stuff. I think in the last episode you mentioned, like, this is the oil spill, and then he uses the little rocket booster things to set it on fire. Yeah. I was like, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. Who knows what else? What other tricks he has?
Of course. But also,
mechanical body.
Anakin and Obi-Wan are also just going back and forth. This is where you see a lot more defiance. Of course, this is the fall of Anakin Skywalker and the rise of Darth Vader, so it's kind of expected. And those scenes are actually pretty good. It's just one of those things where you kind of wish that was there from the very beginning. That bickering, that back and forth, insubordination, all that stuff. Instead, Lucas was just like, I'll save it for the end. It's all good. I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not, George. Should have done this from the beginning, but whatever. We're already here. Yeah. So
in the second film, you only see that. You see it a few times, whether on in the beginning with Amidala when they're meeting her, and then like the chase in Coruscant. There's a couple parts, but this film kind of does a better job with that.
Yeah, it's more comfortable showing that side, I think, because we know we're almost at the end here. So, and also Dooku just straight up eats it. And so I was like, all right, that's cool, I guess. And then, of course, I think out of all the three films, Ian McDiarmid really shines the best in this film. He's got a lot of juicy lines, and he's got a lot of over-the-top, hammy performances that are just like enjoyable, maybe inappropriately so at times because it's just too over the top, but it's still fun to watch. And this is the first instance of that where he's like strapped on that chair and he's just like, go on, execute him. But I can't. And it's just like, do it. Okay.
Do it. Do it.
I mean, there's
just not the Jedi way.
Do it. I said do it, Mountain, do it, motherfucker. Okay. Don't you dare defy me.
I think.
I mean, that's in the first 20 minutes of the film, right? So
30.
Like you were saying, the opening 30 minutes, yeah. Like you were saying, the opening is good. Diving right into the action, that space battle going on. You see them trying to get to Grievous's ship to save Palpatine. The funny thing is, I remember everything after they land and onwards. I've seen this movie several times. I totally forgot the first several moments of them in the spacecrafts and navigating with the clone squadron, and I actually enjoyed it in this film. And I had, for whatever reason, I completely forgot that part. I just remember them landing on the ship and jumping out, and then R2's antics and stuff like that.
Not me.
So
I just didn't like that R4 died. I'm sad when any droid dies, frankly. So
yeah.
And he gets replaced by a different droid. I don't think I caught the name of it, but it's just like, oh,
yeah, I remember.
Poor R4. Oh well.
Yeah.
But I was also sad when the droids bit it in the episode 1 when they were getting shot one by one and R2 was the only one left. I was like, oh, but that's war. I mean, what can you say?
Yes.
Yeah, but another thing too, the main baddie, well, other than Palpatine, is Grievous, General Grievous. And the thing with Grievous is that as a character design, he's really cool. His voice is really cool. How he went out is really lame. That's my only real complaint with the character. Plus, it felt like he was in there for just a little bit. Like, he served a function, obviously, but it was like a really quick thing. Like, all right, let's just get it out of the way. Let's get back to the main event. And it's just another thing where it's just like, instead of the shenanigans from episode 1, all of this stuff could have been really replaced with the events of episode 2 and 3 and just make that a prolonged trilogy. So that way we can have more time with Dooku, have more time with Grievous, have more time with Maul as the principal 3 main baddies, I feel. Perhaps Grievous could have taken more of a backseat in one of the previous films and now he's more front and center. You
can't have too many because it's always a master and apprentice, right?
He's a Sith too, is that what you're saying?
Grievous isn't. I mean, he's a tool. I mean, technically, Darth Maul wasn't supposed to be an apprentice. He was supposed to be just an assassin tool, because Plagueis was still around when Sidious was training Maul. So Plagueis said, you can't have him as an apprentice. That breaks the rule of 2, right? So Grievous, of course, was more of a construct of Dooku's to be a tool for Dooku to use.
Yeah, so going back to what I was saying, he could have been in the background in one of the previous films and then be more
would have helped.
center.
I mean, definitely, yeah. I don't know if you could have all 3, Maul, Dooku, and then it's probably a little too much, especially in 1 film or 2 films. But I think they could have done it better. I mean,
they could have put him in the background, as I keep saying. It's just like, just put him in the background and be like, what's that? Oh, maybe he's going to be in one of the other ones. But then again, right. I don't think Lucas figured this out that far. That's another problem.
Yeah, I personally don't think Grievous, I don't think he compares anywhere as close to Dooku and Maul. And having seen General Grievous in shows like the Clone Wars, I don't think he's that great in this movie, to be honest. I didn't think he was that interesting. He's kind of cool, and there's some elements that are pretty cool, and including some deleted scenes. But I definitely appreciated General Grievous more when I learned more about him and his backstory from other media.
Yeah. Well, on a character standpoint, I would probably have to agree. Especially in Clone Wars, he's more fleshed out, so he's more of a menace, I think. But purely as a character design thing, overall, he's a very cool design. It's kind of like Boba Fett. He's just kind of there. He serves a purpose, but people were like, oh my god, Boba Fett's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, he's literally a dude standing around in this armor that you think is cool. And to me, that's what Grievous is. Oh, he's a thing that stands around looking cool. He's got 4 lightsabers and fights with them. Cool. That's the whole thing with me. So I'm just like, that's why
Jedi killer. He likes the lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly.
Trophies.
Exactly. I have a General Grievous action figure actually, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm a grown ass man when I bought it too. I have no shame. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, like, let's talk about the romance. It's kind of a little bit better in this one. It feels like more established, and I think it's because the relationship is more established. They're already married. They're twins. Well, they don't know they're twins yet, but they're kids coming the way. There's a kid coming the way, and I think at this point it's just like, okay, there's not a lot of creepiness happening. It's more like a tragedy. It's more like a tragic downfall at this point. So
it definitely is. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is basically a romantic tragedy, and that's definitely what Lucas was going for. And I think they do a good job in a lot of the scenes. Obviously, there are some scenes, once again, among others, that dialogue issues and whatnot. But there's some good scenes in there with even when Padme tells Anakin, that she's pregnant. I think his reaction to that, and you see him smile and all that. That was pretty well done, I thought.
Yeah, of course.
The reaction, and so
I think it's also brilliant.
And so it's often better the physical presentation. If he's had a line, it probably would have ruined it, to be honest. But
probably
well, he had a line after that, but
they ruined it towards the end. They ruined it towards the end, but yeah, it was brilliant how Lucas set up the whole thing. Really, the whole thing where it was forbidden for a Jedi to love because the whole attachments thing. So they secretly wed, so he could be expelled from the Jedi Order, and he's pissy that he's not granted the rank of Master and all that stuff. All that stuff is really expertly plotted. I felt like in this film, where his downfall makes a lot more sense. It's accelerated a lot more, and of course, Palpatine's rise to power makes sense too in this one. There are a lot of things that just make a lot of sense. My real complaint, though, is in regards to the plot, is that it felt like they sped through it. It felt like there was so much going on, and they had to kind of get it over with. That it didn't feel like to me that you were eased into it. It felt like I was given cliff notes, and it goes
agree, yeah.
And it goes into what I was saying earlier, where it's just like it should have been a lot better. Like half of episode 2 should have been in 1, half of 2 and 3 should have been the second one, and then 3 should have been this whole prolonged conclusion all the way to the end where he becomes Darth Vader. I felt like if it was like orchestrated that way, it would have felt like one complete epic, all around. Because these movies are like, what, 2.5 hours each, more or less?
Yeah, this one's longer. The first 2 I don't think were that long. 2 hours maybe.
No, Attack of the Clones, according to the thingamajiggy, it said 2.5. I assume Phantom Menace was the same. I didn't look to this one. I don't know, but
this one, I always thought was the longest by 20, 30 minutes. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe it feels longer. I don't know. I think they're about 2 hours and change, but I felt like a lot of that real estate could have been better suited to centering on that conflict, the whole downfall kind of thing of Vader and the rise of the Empire.
I agree.
But
I agree, actually. The Anakin downfall and becoming Vader, as far as the prequel is concerned in totality, I think it does work. But looking at this film, I don't know. It's a slow fall, right? But in this film, it's kind of abrupt, like you said.
Yeah.
So that's something that is noticeable, and
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's just the way it was written. And there are a lot of problems with the script from the very beginning. Not just the dialogue, but it is what it is. We got what we got, and it's just more like, it could have been worse. That's just how you come out of this.
Ultimately, though, at the same time, I will say, I think compared to the other 2, especially the previous film, this one's a lot more clear, and it's kind of more tight-knit. The story's a little bit more tight-knit, so
it's more focused, yeah. So
yeah,
and it's more entertaining that way, I feel. And a lot of the tragedy does come across too, and of course,
Order 66.
That one is when it's executed, I was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. The very first thought that came to me when I was watching this initially was just like, these are Jedis, they can't deflect all these bullets, but oftentimes, in a way, it's expertly crafted too in the film, where they're caught off guard a lot of times, or they're completely overwhelmed. So it's just like, they can deflect, but there's only so much you can deflect. And a lot of these Jedi, they could be masters or they could be Padawans, it's just like, or younglings. There's only so much each, section of Jedi can do. So after a while, I was like, okay, this does make sense. The downfall does make sense, the way it was orchestrated. So it was, again, brilliant on Lucas's part for doing what he did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's at least they show some differences where Plo Koon, dies in being shot down.
Yeah, from the ship.
So he's super vulnerable. The Jedi Master on the speeder, more vulnerable. Ki-Adi-Mundi puts up a fight, but just overwhelmed by the gunfire.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think they show some variations there, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of, they're just taken aback by it. They don't expect it, obviously, and when they do, it's already too late. They're overwhelmed. So
they did.
Yoda, of course, is Yoda, so he's like, mm-mm.
Well,
Nope.
his plot armor makes sense, you know. It's just
Yes,
like,
of course, yeah.
obviously he's got to survive, but he's also like a Grand Jedi Master, whatever his title is. So it's just like, yeah, of course he's going to be on top of this, more so than the other guys. One of the things about this film is specifically the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, which is, of course, he's got to save Padme because he's got that vision in his dream.
Yes.
And then he sees her initially, thinks she's dying. Then he sees Obi-Wan, and he's just like, oh, are you messing with Obi-Wan? And all this other crap. And you're just like, okay, I could kind of see where this is going. And But ultimately, I felt like the saving of Padme wasn't really as captivating as it should be. It felt like a half-baked idea. Because it's just like, okay, I know he's concerned for her. I know he wants to save her and the kid coming in. I know the whole thing about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, that whole thing. And he wants to be able to, you know, control life and death and all that stuff. Primarily life in this case, saving her. But it felt messy. It felt like, because at the end he chokes her out because he's like, you brought Obi-Wan here. And then at the end he's just like, where's Padme?
You know, you choked her out and she died.
No! And it's just like, maybe there's an impulse control issue happening here, I guess, but that just kind of makes you not as calculating and cold as you should be as Darth Vader later on, because in the original trilogy, Darth Vader is cold and calculating. He's very put together. He's very methodical with his methods. And this one's just like, oh, you make me angry. Oh, what did I do? And at one point he does go like, what have I done? with Mace Windu, and I was like, messy.
It's hard to say. I think maybe just not executed well. I think the basis of it makes sense. A lot of it's based on it's his dreams, his nightmares that this is what's going to happen. Which a lot of Jedi can see the future, and so he's been right about that. And especially when you look at the visions he had about his mother and what happened to her on Tatooine. So all that, you know, I think it works. I think it shows that's one of the conflicts, one of many, but that's maybe one of the primary one, really. And and so his motivation and objective is to save her, right? And that's where he's more susceptible to being manipulated by someone like Palpatine. And maybe just not executed well. I think I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's primarily what it is. It wasn't executed well because Anakin just comes off as a brat that doesn't think. He acts before he thinks. And that's not...
The weird... Yeah, and it's also like you're going to... you get manipulated that easily. And, I mean, I get it to some degree, but not really. You have all this Jedi training and out the window.
It comes across as really stupid, is what it comes
It is kind of stupid. It is, I guess he was always kind of a moron if you think about it.
But that's not acceptable. This is Darth Vader. You can't think about that about Darth Vader.
Mean, he's fairly gullible. Eh? I mean,
no, that's
especially when he says, the Jedi are evil and they're taking over the Republic, and then said the evil man that I now trust.
In my perspective, the Jedi are evil.
And then, repeats the same thing to Obi-Wan moments later.
He sounds like a brainwashed conspiracy. He sounds like a brainwashed conspiracy theorist. That's why.
No original thoughts in his mind.
He is an NPC.
I read on the internet that the Jedi are evil, and they're about
I'm part of this Facebook group, and the Jedi, man, they're behind everything, man. They're behind the banking system and everything, man. Those damn Jedi.
Yeah, it's just he's so clouded, and that he doesn't even stop to think. Like, wait a minute, that something doesn't add up here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if he was meant to be a stupid character from the beginning, then that would be okay, I guess. But he's not. That's my big complaint with that in particular. But it is what it is. We're already here, so what can we do? Right. Oh my god. As far as also going in with that conflict towards the end, the whole Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight, it's cool. But as you mentioned, I think in the last episode or one of the times we talked about it, it does go on for a long time. It's impressive on the technical standpoint. But I think one of the reasons why it feels like it goes on for too long is because there's no logic to the fight. In terms of going from point A to point B to point C, point D, they just kind of hop around because the scenery just needs to change, is what it feels like. Take Empire, for instance. When Luke fights Vader, they go from the carbonite facility to some underground basement kind of a thing to outside into that tunnel system. I don't know what the hell you call that. You know, where and then Luke finally falls off and stuff. There's a process to getting from where they started to where they ended up. You know, it feels like, you know, Vader's overwhelming him. Luke is like trying to run away because he feels overpowered. Vader causes that hole in the window thing, causes Luke to fly out. You know, all these things make sense. When it comes to this one, it's just like, well, we got to go from here to here and here and here because you got to see more of the lava planet that I created. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's
and cool. The lightsaber has to hit the button on the computer at the right place, so then the Mustafar environment system starts collapsing in the bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree. The final lightsaber, look, it's cool. Mustafar looks dope too, I think. Of course, the CG is much better in this film as well, and although there's too much of it in the film in general, but
yeah,
the technical abilities, the technique of the dueling is impressive, like you said. It's over the top for sure, but it's still pretty damn good. The coordination, the stunt people, Nick Gillard, all of them, and the team, I mean, a phenomenal job, no doubt. The only complaint, like I said, and like you just said, it was a bit too long. I understand that part of the fight is going on at the same time as Yoda and Sidious, right? In the Senate chamber. So
I didn't mind that so much.
Padding back to that, that helps. That actually helps a bit.
Yeah.
And I like that sequence as well. So then it goes back to Mustafar and back and forth and so forth. But the Annie-Obi fight just goes on and on. And there's a couple moments where it's just staring. I mean, sure, they're waiting for the environment. Like I said, there's the environment to move on, the lava, the structures, the steam pipe or whatever the bloody hell. And they're looking at something to jump on or whatever. It just drags. It doesn't break the entire scene completely or anything, you know, but it's just an issue that I have. We both have. It's still fairly good, though.
What breaks it is that atrocious-ass dialogue at the end of the fight. And Hayden's acting towards the end. Oh, I hate you! I was like, come on, bro. What is this? Yeah. It's just like...
I mean, some of those lines, the emotional impact is there. It's just... I wish it wasn't executed.
Bare minimum, like I guess. There's certain things that needed to happen. Also, like, you know, after chopping off his limbs, Obi-Wan, like, he comes and just casually picks up the lightsaber. I'm like, you don't really need to pick it up, but the reason why he picks it up is because he gives it to Luke later on. Of course, he's got to pick it up. There's certain things that don't make sense, but only because the previous film already establishes certain things that happen. So that's kind of a problem that could have been done with better skill, I feel. But also the lines like, Anakin, I have the high ground. And I'm like, I know that's a meme, but it's still a stupid fucking line. I don't like it. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And
no, I agree. I definitely agree. He also didn't need to pick up the lightsaber. He could have just force pulled it.
Yeah, well, either way, he gets it. And
because he had to climb down and he's taking a slight... I mean, that's not really any risk, but what if he slipped and fell into the lava or something?
Honestly, it's almost as if Anakin should have... That blue lightsaber, he should have discarded it and got his own lightsaber that was red. And then, at that point, it would make sense that Obi-Wan wouldn't take that. Because it's like, it's the Sith weapon, whatever. And then later on, he finds Anakin's old lightsaber. Maybe he got it from him. Maybe he left it behind. And he keeps that. I felt like that would be a lot fucking better than what they ended up doing.
You found out it was in a safety deposit box in Coruscant National Bank.
Yeah, I am currently the benefactor for this lightsaber.
You heard that the Republic's gonna fall, right?
Give me the damn lightsaber right now. I'll cut off your head.
You will open up this deposit box.
Those Jedi mind tricks don't work on me.
Sounds like that thing from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, yes, yeah. Also, going back to the lightsaber fights at the end, there's a few parts that make you think, a couple scenes in that sequence, it almost looks like they're not actually trying to kill each other. Most of the time, it looks like they are, obviously.
That's pretty much all the lightsaber fights in this film, in the whole prequel trilogy.
But there's a lot of strange movement. Technical ability, sure, that's great, but some strange movements, unnecessary twirls and slashes, a way that you wouldn't do if you're trying to kill somebody. It's just for show.
Yeah, it's
like you're trying to kill somebody, so you're not going to do too much of that.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
Yeah, that is 100% true. I mean, our other YouTube channels have made mention of this as well, famously Red Letter Media.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Once again, it doesn't completely ruin anything or anything like that. It just at times it looks very unnatural, and and you're just doing it to make it look cool, instead of having a realistic approach to attempted murder.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's very uneven. It doesn't make any sense, and he equates it more like a ballet in this film trilogy. So it's just like, I see the ballet, but where's the urgency? Yeah, it's just like, it's just not there. But it is what it is. Yeah, and another cringe line, going back to that I can't get out of my mind. I hated it. There are two, actually. Said by two different characters, but the first one being like, Annie, you're breaking my heart. I was like, when I heard that, I was like, I hate that. I hate that line so much. She could have said literally anything else. Why the hell did she say that?
Yeah.
That just gives me a headache thinking about it. And also,
she said what she should have said was, Annie, what's that happened to you?
That would have been so great. Jar Jar just comes out of the ship. Annie, what's happened to you? Jesus Christ. But also also I touched upon it already, but the famous no. Yes. Lord Almighty, the first time I heard that, I laughed out loud. I was like, everyone was dead silent for a second or two, and then I started laughing. Everyone started laughing, or at least a few people started laughing in the theater. It was just like one of those things that was just so absurd, and I hated, and I knew it was going to happen. I think it was already leaked at the time when the film came out. Then I saw it, and I was like, my God, just ruined the whole character of Darth Vader. Just keep doing it. Just like, nothing's sacred anymore.
I'm sure there were people laughing in just about every theater seeing that. I mean, honestly, instead of that, no, he should have just force crushed everything in the room, and then maybe take a knee or something, like he's defeated again. And then, I don't know, Sidious puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "Rise, my apprentice," just like he did earlier.
Yeah,
like
a second.
I don't know what.
Or just,
I don't know why.
Or just yelling in general instead of no. Instead, he could have just been like,
talk about ruining a scene. It's a very twisted, sad scene, right? Mm-hmm. Vader in great distress, finding out this news, crushes the room with the Force. Sidious smiling in the background like a sick maniac, which he is.
Yeah,
and
straight up
and
psychopath.
You have to ruin this, ruin this scene with that rubbish.
I know, but it also coincides with the other thing that's awful, and it doesn't make any sense.
Jedi. When he says no in Jedi?
Oh God, no! I don't want to go back to that. But but it coincides with Padme dying, which doesn't make any sense. It does tie in the Jedi in the sense where Luke asks Leia, "Tell me about your mother, your real mother." And she's like, "Oh, she was always so sad and whatever the hell." She just freaking dies in this film. No, granted, I think there are explanations now where Leia is so attuned to the Force herself, just not really as disciplined as Luke, or learns about it. She envisioned her mother, and that's what she's actually referring to, is, I think, the legend explanation. I don't know if it's the official canon explanation. So I'm like, all right, fine, but she straight up just dies of a broken heart. Come on, man. What is this? What is this garbage?
Yeah. I mean, that's what the droid says, and I think the scene itself with Vader being put together, back together, while Padme is giving birth, and that's an interesting approach that they did. I think it's a pretty good. That being said, I agree with what you're saying. I look at it more like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he force choked her and probably died of complications of the childbirth.
Maybe.
Even if the droid says, maybe not. I mean, the droid says that's not the case.
Highly technological society, and there's still childbirth mortality rates. Okay, that's believable.
Well, but it's not every day that someone gets force choked by someone. So,
nah, yeah, of course, but I don't know. Like, if anything, if he choked her to the point where she passed out right in front of him, which I think she did. Did she?
She did, yeah.
Yeah, then. Yeah. And I guess if she remained passed out until the childbirthing, I guess, where she comes to, maybe that would have been, and I think that line should have just been excised entirely. She died of a broken heart. No, get rid of that goddamn line. Say something else. Like, we have to, there's internal bleeding or something, then you could be like, Okay, Anakin killed her basically. Indirect, like
I mean,
he didn't mean it, but yeah.
I mean, Lucas is the one who wanted to add so much specific science and stuff behind things, whether it's the midichlorians
Yeah.
to explain the Force and stuff. Why not have a medical explanation for this instead of? I mean, to be fair, there is such a thing as broken heart syndrome. It does exist.
It does exist, yes.
But so, not to say that it doesn't. So it definitely does. But I think it's just in this scene. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess it would have been if you were to keep that awful line in there. The only other thing that would justify it is if she was already tortured for like a while. Like she could sense or she could already see that Anakin is not entirely a good dude. She believes they're still good, but he's doing too much bad that she's losing a lot more faith in him, and it's making her very sad, you know. And again, because in Attack of the Clones, he's just like, I killed them, the women, children, all that crap, and it's just like,
right.
That could have been the beginning of that, leading all the way to this film, you know. Like she's supportive, but to a fault, you know. And it's just, but that wasn't established until this film, and frankly, until the end of it, you know. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Again, it goes back to my original thing where I'm just like, I felt like they speed ran through it. It felt like we were given the cliff notes of things that would have happened, and they just happen, and you don't have enough time to like settle with it, the information given to you. So I don't know, it is what it is. But you know, in terms of cool things that happen though, I mean, the battle in Kashyyyk is pretty cool with the Wookiees. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the Wookiees, fan of Kashyyyk. I will say though, and I never thought about this before, was the Kashyyyk part of the film really needed? I mean, like I said, big fan of the Wookiees, and Kashyyyk is a cool planet. I had a lot of fun when I played Knights of the Old Republic. You go there, and I don't know if it was really needed. Was it just to have Yoda somewhere else other than Coruscant?
I think I could give you the reason.
Or was it just to show Chewbacca?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Fan service.
You know,
that's what it was.
Look at the other places during Order 66. Kenobi's and Utapau. Mm-hmm. That makes sense because he has to capture or destroy General Grievous. So there's a purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so that's explained. But Kashyyyk is just kind of like, you know, Yoda's like, I have good relations, or you know, with the Wookiees or.
Chewbacca, so I know. Way back we go. He hits the bong like no other.
Yes.
I mean, listen, is it cool to see Chewbacca? Yes, it is. It is, yeah. But again, it's just like, especially that one scene, because I was just like, oh, that Wookiee looks like Chewbacca when Yoda's about to leave the planet. He's like, goodbye, Chewbacca. Miss you, I will. And I was like, what? That is Chewbacca? Oh my God, I hate coincidences in anything, any media. I hate it. You know, and again, it goes all the way back in the first of these films. R2 being there, C-3PO being there, that was already too much. Now you have Chewbacca. I mean, Yoda being there is fine because he's supposed to be there. Obi-Wan's fine, and Anakin. Those are players of a bigger game in terms of like the origin story. That's fine, but these other side characters that we're not supposed to know, I mean, why? Why couldn't Han Solo be there while we're at it? Why couldn't Han be like a fucking, I don't know, 8-year-old kid be like, hey, gee willikers, Chewbacca, I want to fight against the droids too, Chewbacca. All right, Chewie, I'll just hang out in the cave and just gather berries like I'm supposed to, but one day I'll get my own ship and we'll go on adventures. You might as well have written a scene like that. And it wouldn't have been that much different from the other things that he already put in there in terms of fan service, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny that he's on record saying, like, I don't want to do a fan film. Fan films suck. Then what is this then? What is this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, having Chewie in there, I mean, Chewie Toys, sale of toys skyrocket 1,000%. So I think there's an explanation there.
Listen, I have a stockpile of Chewbacca masks in a warehouse, and we got to use them, goddammit. So...
Yep.
Wookiee battle it is.
Yep. So that might explain something, you know. But look, I mean, in general, like you know, like we were saying, I like Kashyyyk. Wookiees are dope. I don't know if that had to be in there, but it is, and that's fine. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. I mean, it's good for an episode of Clone Wars, maybe, because you know the battle was kind of like overreaching, and it goes in different areas, different planets in the galaxy. So conceivably, there would have been a war on Kashyyyk. conceivably Chewbacca would have fought in that war. You know, so it's just like that would make sense. But all the other stuff, interacting with key players, no, out of the question. If I was there in that story room and be like, George, you're out of your mind. Yoda and Chewbacca should never, ever come in contact. That is way too coincidental. There's no reason for them to ever interact. And of course, he would have been like, you know what? All security, get him out of here. I do what I want.
Yeah.
I do what I want. All right, George.
Yep.
You won this time.
No, we didn't mention the Anakin Obi-Wan lightsaber fight. We didn't go into detail about Yoda and Sidious.
Not really.
Although that fight was pretty awesome.
I liked it a lot.
I liked the going from the lightsaber and then transitioning to just force abilities. I think that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yoda probably would have won it if it was just a lightsaber, and if it didn't move to the main Senate chamber. But obviously, Sidious's ability with the Force is just it's a lot, right? So
yeah,
I think it's a great scene too because you know that Yoda kind of knew it was too late, right? The Jedi era was over. If he couldn't take Sidious down immediately in that fight, which he didn't, he knew it was over. Even though in some ways it kind of looked like a stalemate, even though it really wasn't. The Jedi had already lost before this thing even began, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, really, this was decades in the making by the Sith, and so Yoda knows the Jedi failed, and they were clouded by the dark side this whole time.
It doesn't feel like decades, but yeah, I mean, ostensibly it's been decades, so
it has, yeah.
A very slow, precipitous, downfall. But if anything, I think what makes that scene great too is not just those things that you just mentioned. It's just the fact that you have like a Master Sith and a Master Jedi going at it, and not only that, it makes sense. This is an actual thing that makes sense. These are two major players in the original trilogy, but it would make sense. Yoda is already part of the Jedi High Council in the Republic. Sheev Palpatine was working his way up the ranks and usurps like the power of the Republic and makes it the Empire. It's inevitable that their paths would cross.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they did cross, and they crossed in such an amazing way, I feel, to the point where I'm just like, this is really good. I kind of wish this fight went on a little bit longer than the Obi-Wan versus Anakin fight. Honestly,
agreed. Yes,
because that's more epic.
And Ian McDiarmid, obviously, as we already mentioned, he's great. He's great in all these movies, and I mean the twisted facial expressions and the laughing during the Senate floor fight, and man,
his laugh is so good too.
So good. Damn, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, his lines are really cheesy, but they're pretty much excusable because it's really fun to hear him. Because he says that stuff with so much conviction. Like, he believes every single word he says. That's what makes it so fun. Like, no, you will die! And then he goes like, unlimited power! I'm just like, bro, he looks like he's having the time of his life.
Yeah. Well,
oh, my God.
They're very believe in their abilities, and he can back it up, right? So,
well, yeah, not just that, but just like Ian McDiarmid is one of those actors who takes terrible lines and he can completely own them. He just goes completely, and I think his character's supposed to go ham. Not to go too hard on Hayden Christensen. I mean, there's only so much he could do as the character of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. You can't go too ham with it, although once in a while he does. But Palpatine is almost expected for him to go ham, so it's fun.
Yeah, you can have fun with it, like you said.
Yeah.
There's one thing I did want to mention. Now, once again in this film, just like the last one, we see Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Kenobi show was the last time we saw him.
Yeah. Since been replaced with Benjamin Bratt, I believe.
Yeah, look, I mean, Jimmy Smits did a good job. He's cool. I gotta say, Benjamin Bratt, recast in Andor recently, is as good, if not better. I think actually better.
Really?
No disrespect to Jimmy Smits. Yeah, I think Bratt actually captured some of what we've seen before, but then added much more to it. I mean, his own interpretation. He's serious, he's dignified, but it has more weight to it. And now, to be fair, he has a lot more speaking lines in Andor than Jimmy Smits had in episode 2 and 3 combined. So we had a lot more to work with too, right? So
of course.
And let's be honest, better dialogue and writing is found in Andor.
Yeah.
That probably helps a lot too, just my 2 cents.
It's one of the few compliments to the Disney Star Wars era where, once in a while they get it right.
Right, exactly. And so that, I mean, might be a controversial take, but I actually think Benjamin Bratt's a better Bail Organa.
Yeah, he's a good actor though. I like him
He's a
in
good actor,
I
yeah.
like him in Miscongeniality and stuff. He's good at what he does.
Yeah, he's made Law and Order back in the day too. But
There you go. So
yeah, I mean, all in all, yeah, of course, the end of the film, and you have the funeral of Amidala back on Naboo, and we get a little bit of 5 seconds of Jar Jar Binks there,
mhm.
which didn't bother me because he's only in it for 5 seconds, and it makes complete sense that he's there too,
Of course.
being the senator of Naboo and being her friend, and
I mean, he wasn't speaking, so it wasn't egregious or offensive or
right,
annoying. So it's just like you just see
right.
him. So unless you have a repulsive kind of like response to even seeing him, it's fine.
It is, yeah. So yeah, you had that scene, and then on Tatooine, of course, Owen and Beru with Luke looking at the sun's setting. I mean, that's just brilliant.
That's
Force
beautiful.
theme playing, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's an ending right there. Yeah,
It's beautiful. I mean, and
it's a beautiful ending.
right
Yeah.
before that, Leia is given to the Organas. So
Yeah, correct.
so it's just like, so I mean, with the birth scene too, it's kind of funny that she just goes like, Luke, Leia. I mean, I guess she planned the names, but they didn't know she was pregnant with twins either. So
That's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that just seemed kind of random to me, but I don't know. And again, speed run. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, but
they didn't know what the gender was either, so she probably had a few names.
that's true. Yeah, she
ready to
probably, if
go,
it was a
so.
boy, it'd be this. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. But the actual ending where you see Leia and Luke at the rightful places, it's really cool. There
It is good. Yeah.
it is a bit of a controversy as to, I don't know if it's a controversy, but fans were like basically like, well, Leia makes sense. She has a completely brand new last name. She's Leia Organa instead of Leia Skywalker. Luke retains his last name. So if he's supposed to be the son of this great, Sith Lord who's controlling the galaxy or helps control the galaxy, why would you keep his surname Skywalker? And I'm just like, that doesn't really make sense. I get the whole maybe hiding in plain sight, but it's still something that you're opening up this kid for exposure. There have been a couple of theories that I looked up. There is that hiding in plain sight. Another thing too is that Darth Vader at this point is just like, he doesn't want to go back on Tatooine. One, the Empire doesn't have control of the planet anyway, but also two, all the horrible memories he had on that planet, being a slave, his mother dying and stuff like that, the basically the mass murder he committed. Yeah. It's one of those things where he's just like, he's so scarred with PTSD that he doesn't want anything to do with that planet or any of his step family and stuff. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, I guess it does kind of make sense that Luke would be hiding in plain sight. In terms of retaining the name, another thing I heard, maybe you can correct me if you know this, but from what I understand, he retained the name as a tribute to Shmi because, Owen is just like, he had fond memories of her. And it was just like, well, this the least I can do is have him retain the name. Another thing I was kind of thinking is that Luke was probably known as Luke Owen for a while. And only until he became older, he started understanding his Skywalker legacy, of which he wanted to maybe know more about, but he wasn't allowed to talk to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was not allowed to meet with him, really, maybe just say hi here and there. So as a tribute to that, he decided to call himself Luke Skywalker. That's the kind of headcanon that I would want to say for me, just because it's just like, okay, at a relatively late point in life, he calls himself Skywalker. No one else knows.
I'm not sure what the actual reason, or if there is one. Maybe in the novelization or in something in media has an answer. I'm not really sure. I think he didn't want to take up the last name Lars. He's like, Luke Lars? No.
Yeah, ain't gonna work.
No. That's not gonna work. No, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I think a tribute, keeping the name Skywalker as a tribute, I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
so
that's the only thing that makes sense. He reveres his father, hearing about him, maybe at least the Anakin part of it. Knowing about his grandmother, perhaps. Those are a couple of good theories, I feel.
Then again, we don't really know for certain. Well, do we? That Owen and Beru know that Anakin became Vader?
It's one
we
of those.
Technically don't know if Obi-Wan actually told them that specifically.
It's a gray area, and I think it's covered in the TV show Obi-Wan a little bit, and it's more implied than anything.
I can't recall.
I mean, in the original trilogy, obviously in the first movie, there is, and again, props to the actors, they gave a very good nuanced performance. They were just like, at the mere mention of Anakin or his father, they were just like, oh, better not tell him anything. We don't want him to be like his father. That's what I'm afraid of. And you're just kind of like, was he reckless? Was he too adventurous?
That's probably...
That's with the,
wait a minute.
The original intention, yeah.
Wait a minute. Obi-Wan doesn't even know that he's Vader. So he has nothing to tell Owen and Brood.
At that point...
Anakin's dead.
At that
so Obi-Wan thought that he killed him.
Well, yeah, at that point in the prequel, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, yeah, there was nothing to tell him other than he thinks Anakin's dead, frankly.
Yeah, so he probably... So then, based on that, then I could see why the Skywalker last name didn't need to be changed, because I guess.
Yeah, he's out of the picture, kind of a thing. Perhaps. I just know that when the Obi-Wan TV show rolled in, they did some things right in that show. Yeah, they did some bad things. But one of the really good things is the relationship between Obi-Wan and Owen. I thought
Owen's like, go away. Leave us alone.
Gets a spray bottle. Get away, Jedi. Psst, psst. But it's really sad. Man. It's really sad in the show because Obi-Wan really wants to pass over the teachings because he's part of the last of a dying, religion. He wants to pass it on.
Exactly.
He's forbidden explicitly from doing it. It's really sad. And it's towards the end of that. No, not towards. At the very end of the show, Owen's at least like, okay, you want to say hi to the kid? Just go say hi to the kid. That is beautiful. I mean, that's one of those things where it's just like, oh, I get goosebumps saying that because I'm like, that is really, really good. And, little things like that. And plus, of course, when he fights with Vader with the helmet half off and he's like, Obi-Wan, you didn't kill Anakin. I did. It's one of those things where it's supposed to be cheesy, but it's just so good. And I always see that scene I'm not always, but once in a while I go back to that scene and I watch it and I love it. I love that dynamic. I love that exchange. And especially love where he's just like that. My friend is truly dead, which is, I think, a line that's said in Jedi Luke to Vader. It's like, then my father's truly dead. So it's just a reprise of that. It's just an homage to that. And then he goes back and then at the end he says, goodbye, Darth. All that stuff is beautiful. And and it leads into like the ending of this film, circling back to that. All that is established towards the end in terms of like, this is where the kids are going to end up. Sure, this is kind of messy how this is all happening, but it leads to better things. And there's enough gray area going back to your original question. Like, how much do they know? We don't know. There's a lot in the imagination to be able to fill in the blanks and give you a greater sense as to why the characters end up the way they do all the way to the original trilogy, which overall is beautiful. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well said.
As far as ratings, ultimately, I think I gave Phantom Menace a 5.5. I gave Clones a 6.5. This one, I think it is appropriate to maybe give it... God, I feel remiss to give it a 7, because that to me is too high. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if I enjoyed Clones and 6.5 and it's still a pretty bad film, I gotta give this one a 7.
There you go. 7 is actually what I was gonna rate this film as well. I wasn't as generous as Attack of the Clones as you were with that film, and I can't even remember what I gave Phantom Menace, 5 or something, 5.5. So this film I think is a 7 out of 10. I mean, they definitely improved a lot of things in this film. While it has its flaws, it's the best out of the prequels, and they definitely succeeded in concluding the film and trying to bridge it to the OT, and 7 out of 10.
There you go. All right, guys, and that's Revenge of the Sith. With this episode, we finished the whole prequel trilogy. So, yeah. So I didn't enjoy these films overall as much as the original trilogy, obviously, but revisiting them again, it's not nearly as bad as I remember, but it's still kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good way to put it. They're not terrible. There's good and bad in the movies. I don't think they're very good, but there are a lot of elements in all three films that I do like, and there's some good scenes and some cool stuff. And I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you got to watch these.
Yeah.
I don't have to watch it anymore. I've seen these movies several times.
I've effectively retired.
So I like the original trilogy, and I can watch those anytime, and I will. I'll watch those whatever once a year or something if I want.
Oh yeah.
But at least these are Star Wars films, unlike the new ones, the new sequel, and I can appreciate this prequel trilogy on some level, and like I said, there are some good stuff and plenty of bad stuff too. But
yeah,
but
George had a vision. He had, there was something in him that needed to come out in terms of telling the story, telling this backstory. There was a lot of good intent behind it. It's just poorly executed, as we constantly keep saying. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, well, I think, if anything, this whole film trilogy was about the tragedy of Darth Vader. I felt like this was the tragedy of a good idea, being mismanaged horribly because of ego and hubris and all that stuff, merchandising, or whatever you want to call it. But nonetheless, we're already here, and
But at the end of the day, I'm glad that they were made, and I'm glad so many people like these films. I'm glad that they're even more popular than they ever were. And the sequels are so bad that people have turned back to the prequel and like, this is, and I think we've always been consistent, with our views over the decades, and I know I have, and so my opinions haven't changed because of the new things, but the new films, but
I am not easily influenced either. So yes,
So I think we've been fair, and for the people who love these movies, great. Enjoy it. We want everyone to enjoy Star Wars. Right?
Hey, listen, like whatever you want to like. If you like those god awful sequels, then go ahead, like them.
Some people do. Yeah, some people do. More power to you. I don't know how you can stomach it, but
honestly, at the end of the day, it's just like whatever makes you happy, just do it. There's stuff that I loved growing up that people just hate, or they really just don't like it. And I'm just like, and at first I was like bummed because you want to be part of the social group, right? It's a social group dynamic. You want to be part of the group. You want to be in what's in. But as you get older, at least in my case, probably in your case too, you stop caring. You're just like, I'm going to like whatever the hell I like. And if you don't like it, then hit the road, because I don't care what you think.
Exactly. You want to be on the Jedi Council, but you're upset you didn't become a master.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of being like Anakin, instead of like Anakin being like, I want to be a master, I've been like, all right, fine. As long as I have a seat, then I'll sit down. But whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. Speaking of sequels, though, now that we wrapped up the first 6 films, now it's time to talk about them sequels.
Yay!
I am certainly excited for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
I have a lot of pent-up anger that I wish to unleash, but until then, guys, we'll be seeing you next time.
And may the Force be with you, always.